In the first presentation in this series, I made the point that dogma, especially when it becomes the foundation of an ideology, is the most dangerous thing to confront humanity. I also make the point that dogma is not the same thing as reality. Instead, it's an extremely common method certain unethical people or institutions use to disempower folks in order to further their agendas. I make the point that dogma is used to confuse people and create fear, to motivate them to do something that benefits those who are promulgating the dogma or the agenda. If dogma is that dangerous, then wouldn't it follow that learning how to recognize it is of vital importance? Even more important is knowing how to deal with it when you encounter it. In this presentation, we're going to discuss how dogma comes about, why people are so vulnerable to it, the universal characteristics by which it can be recognized, and how to defeat it. My name is Lono. I'm a Kahuna priest from the Eagle's Nest family, and I teach a system of high-order awareness that has the ability to defeat dogma. And that's why our byline is that the Eagle's Nest family is the place where dogma comes to die in the light of reality. Now, keeping our communities fractured is an essential part of the elite's plan to create a one-world, top-down system of government where the people at the top, the elite, have all the rights, and the people at the bottom, us, have only the freedom and the rights they want us to have. By stoking divisions based on race and gender, religion, sexual preference, politics, and any other difference that can be exploited, these elite are engineering huge social changes. If we want to preserve our freedoms, we must reject these attempts to divide us, or we're not going to be successful in our efforts to remain free. And personal freedom and respect for individual rights is the foundation of our American dream, and why America has historically created more peace and prosperity for the common person than any other system of government that has ever existed. It's also why America is under attack by these same billionaire elites. Traditional American values held by the common citizen stand squarely in their way. Now, the Eagle's Nest family is a family of people dedicated to supporting those who are attempting to wake us up, and wake up not only America, but also the world's population with the only message that's big enough to do so. We need to work together to reach out to the entire world, because the goal of these elite is to control our entire world. The World Economic Forum, the Bilderbergs, these aren't conspiracy theory things, they're real. If you're one of those special people who can see the value in what we're doing, please hit that like button and tell others that we're here. And be sure to subscribe to our channel. And hit that bell icon so you get notified as we post new presentations. Dogma comes about because it's impossible for any of us to be an expert at everything. There's a myriad of choices we can make relative to any circumstance, and each choice has a consequence that inevitably leads to the creation of future circumstances, each of which will require more choices. All of these choices depend on our perspectives, which, especially during our earliest years, are formed from the leadership of others who are or should be more aware than ourselves. Regardless of how we are trained to see the world, it is absolutely true that each of us create our own lives out of that dynamic. That means that regardless of what we might prefer to believe, none of us are victims. Each of us can change how we look at our world, and in turn, how we make our choices. And that's why blaming others for any circumstance we might find ourselves in is so disempowering and counterproductive. And that's also why people on the path of enlightenment don't blame others for how their lives look. Now, unlike animals that are incapable of higher order thinking, humans are built to explore the meaning of things. As our lives unfold, lots of experiences happen in the context of a lot of information. And as we transition from childhood into maturity, so does our capacity to do all of this. Unfortunately, capacity does not always translate itself into a demonstrated ability. Now, healthy people are better able to do this because they're more in touch with reality and less deluded by the kinds of beliefs that underpin dogmatic worldviews. Another way of saying this is that healthy people are more conscious than unhealthy people because they've developed the ability to transcend dogmatic ways of looking at life. Why the difference? Why are some people able to do this and others not so much? Well, the answer lies in an ancient Hawaiian metaphor of the dragon. I'm a mo'o priest, and mo'o is a word that means lizard, or at the deepest level, the dragon. And in this metaphor, the dragon is seen as a guardian of the threshold to enlightenment. To gain that gift that is enlightenment, one must pass by the dragon and its hot, fiery breath that burns away anything within us that is not real. This dragon is a fearful, four-headed beast. The mother dragon, the mother head, holds in her mouth the pearl of great price. That's enlightenment. Her head is known as worthy and unworthy. One of her daughter's heads is called good and bad. Another is right and wrong. And the final daughter's head is called fair and unfair. This metaphor is pregnant with meaning. And it perfectly sums up the purpose of this dream we call our lives. Now, this dragon embodies unconsciousness. Those who look at life in terms of fair and unfair, right, wrong, good, bad, inevitably come to see themselves and others in terms of worthy and unworthy. This is the essence of unconsciousness. All of that process is rooted in opinions, and accordingly, none of this kind of thinking is rooted in reality. Remember, life energy flows where reality is, so this kind of thinking shuts down the experience of life energy because it creates separation and division between those of us who choose to look at our world from those perspectives and those of us who don't. And that's why dogma makes life painful. People who need to be worthy are people who need to be good, right, and fair. And those who don't look at life in that same way need to be made unfair, wrong, and bad. Make someone bad and unworthy enough, and you can justify violating their sacred space, which is the ultimate expression of evil. Now, it's important here to distinguish evil from good, bad, right, wrong. Evil, which we define as that which blocks the natural flow of life energy, and by the way, evil is live spelled backwards, we need to be able to separate that kind of evil from opinions about what's good, bad, right, wrong, fair, and unfair. In other words, evil is real, and opinions about what is bad, wrong, or unfair are simply opinions. They're not real, and they'll vary based on whichever person's holding that opinion and needs to be right about that opinion. Now, all dogma is an expression of the dragon because dogma is made of those opinions. So how do you heal this problem? That's actually far simpler than most people might imagine. You heal unconsciousness by allowing your pain to teach you the value of humility. It's arrogance that needs to hold on to these opinions that make you feel worthy and right and good. And it takes humility to heal that arrogance. It's as simple as that. In this culture, humility is poorly understood. Humility is not about believing that you're somehow less than or unworthy. It's the exact opposite of what many churches have turned it into. True humility is about the ability to look at life from perspectives other than those that have become habitual for us. It's all about having an open mind, which can't truly happen if you have a need to be good, right, fair about anything. Having a truly open mind requires a lot of strength born of courage to resist the prevailing narrative, dogma, or ideology in which a person might find themselves. So why does the spiritual capacity of humility unlock the experience of enlightenment? Because people who are truly humble discover something really wonderful about themselves. And people who are arrogant will never get it. There's a place inside where each of us can recognize reality. It's intuitive. Reality is intuitive. We don't have to believe in it. Neither is it necessary to be loyal to any narrative or belief system that purports to make us worthy. If that's a part of your dynamic, you can know for sure that you're trapped by an ideology and in denial of who you really are. Who you really are is a part of the all that is. That's the only definition of the word God that can make any sense. God is all that is. And you're obviously here, so you're a part of that. As a part of that all that is, you're intrinsically worthy. There's nothing you could do to even screw that up. That's never in question. And being loyal to a narrative rooted in dogma or ideology that makes you less than that can't make you worthy. It can only make you unconscious. In this unconsciousness, you're going to tend to blame your pain on something outside of yourself because you can't afford to believe that you might be wrong or unworthy. And that's the trap. That's what keeps you locked into a room that is far too dark and small, devoid of the life energy you truly deserve and can have. Now, enlightened people recognize that each experience takes on a flavor based on that person's understanding. Two people can look at the exact same thing and come away with two entirely different impressions of what that was. Making sense of it all is very much like dealing with a connect-the-dots puzzle. If the dots are connected correctly, they increasingly lead to a sense of joy and peace, which is the freedom from fear. I don't know about you, but I don't like fear. I would really prefer to be free of it. And those who can't or won't connect the dots in a way that transcends their habitual narrative, they promulgate division and fear. Now, how can you connect the dots correctly when some of the dots are missing? And that's why censorship is so dangerous. What happens when you're taught to misidentify or completely ignore other dots, or apply one standard to one favored group or another to those who you don't like? That's going on with all kinds of things in our country right now. The Justice Department will let people who are blatant criminals off the hook while they'll just prosecute their enemies for doing something much, much less, not probably even a crime. The other problem that happens is when people are told to believe somebody because they're experts. Well, you can recognize whether or not it's dogma in spite of what an expert says. Now, this is the problem with dogma and narratives that aren't real. Just as reality is self-evident, so is the disingenuous nature of dogma as well as its result. With this understanding as a guide, do our news media work to create peace, or do they foment fear by exploiting bias caused by dogma? Do our politicians seek to heal our divisions, or do they seek to exploit them? I think it's pretty obvious. Now, from the time we're born to the time we exit this life, we're exposed to a huge variety of circumstances that require us to make decisions. We depend on people in leadership positions to give us guidance about how to connect the dots in an appropriate way so we can avoid mistakes. And this begins with our parents, then expands to our teachers, ministers, doctors, reporters for various media, political pundits, and politicians. And ethical leadership helps us to separate what we know from what we don't in a clear-cut, common-sense way that we can build upon to make ever wiser decisions. Unethical leadership wants us to connect the dots in ways that benefit them at our expense. And by this definition, the vast majority of our country's leaders are unethical. And this is true whether the venue is politics, religion, medicine, or more. Unethical leaders create narratives by connecting the dots in ways that aren't real. Then they defend their narratives with all kinds of confusing statements and allegations and make wrong energy designed to marginalize you, or worse yet, brand you as disloyal to the human race if you resist. And that's the essence of dogma. That's how you can recognize it. And as ugly as this is, the good news is that dogma carries within it the seeds of its own destruction. The problem is the pain dogma causes before people wake up. So dogma is composed of personal opinions about reality to give one group of people power over another. This is how dogma inevitably creates societal struggles, whether the arena is medicine, environmental issues like climate change, the economy, relationships, and especially politics and religion. None of these things help people benefit when they promulgate dogma disguised as reality. Can you recognize the importance of this perspective? When our choices reflect reality, we enjoy a flow of life energy. The closer we live in harmony with reality, the more life energy, joy, and peace we all enjoy. When our choices are based on beliefs or dogma, that is, inaccurate representations of how our world is built, we get pain. Like it or not, that's how the world is built. Now remember, I'm a kahuna priest, and as a kahuna, I'm not interested in debating opinions about what's real and what is not. And my suggestion to you is don't you debate it either. When people can't have rational dialogue between one another and explore ideas, and all they want to do is argue, that's just a lose-lose game that's a waste of time. It's completely unnecessary and counterproductive. Why? Well, when you can see reality, it's self-evident. There's no need for beliefs. And that's what you discover about yourself when you start getting humble. There's a place inside. You can see what's real. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to be worthy. You don't have to be right. You don't have to be good. It just is what it is. So in the light of reality, beliefs dissipate like the morning mist in the sunshine. And that's why I don't ask for belief. If you need to believe me, you're on the wrong track. I said that in the first lesson in this series. It's more like, come up here. Look at the world from here. What do you see from here? Hawaiians call it Ike Papalua, the high sight that brings power. That's what Native Americans refer to as eagle medicine. It's all about having a high enough perspective that you can see choices that work because they're in harmony with reality, while discovering and honoring that place inside of each of us that can recognize reality when we open our minds. Now, in future messages, we're going to explore examples of dogma posing as science that's designed to disempower us. We're going to examine perspectives that from the light of reality can be seen by anyone who's willing to go there. And that's the only medicine that can heal a world in pain. So thanks for joining me today. Hopefully you understand more about the nature of dogma. And do you feel that understanding the difference between dogma and reality is important? Can you see the importance of humility? Can you see the importance of being a part of a family that teaches all of its members to honor reality over dogma, to be humble, to teach a system of high order awareness that allows each member and their families and their children to see the world from ever higher perspectives? Your children are not being taught this in school. If you're a parent and you have kids in the home, they should be listening to every one of these messages, and you'll be surprised at how quickly they catch on and how cogent and conscious they can be. And that's what our Eagles Nest family does. If you agree that that's valuable, then you can help me and our family spread the word by hitting the thumbs up button, subscribing right now. Also hit that notification bell because these short presentations build on one another and you won't benefit if you miss one. Also know that you're welcome to leave a comment on what you think of today's presentation, and feel free to let me know what you think I can do to improve. As I said, my goal with these presentations is to earn your trust so that you're going to give serious consideration to joining our Eagle's Nest family. It's the only place where you can learn the principles of high order awareness. Aloha.